Port Canaveral. It's the original Disney Cruise Line port, and it's the port that handles the most amount of Disney Cruise Line ships. Whether you've cruised to Port Canaveral before or it's your first time, we're going to give you everything you need to know before you cruise out of Port Canaveral. That's today on the Diz Unlimited's DCL Show. Hello and welcome to the Diz Unlimited's DCL Show. I'm Chris Forbeck, one of the agents at Dreams Unlimited Travel. Thanks so much for joining us. This is the first in a series of profiles of the departure ports that Disney Cruise Line uses. And we're starting with what is the port that handles more Disney Cruise Line ships than any other. It's Port Canaveral. It's located, of course, just east of Orlando, a bit more than an hour from the Walt Disney World Resort. And Port Canaveral is home to more Disney ships than any other port. So we thought it was a great place to start. And as I said earlier, whether this is your first cruise out of Port Canaveral or you've Pearl and you've done it before, we hope this is helpful to give you a little bit of an overview. And here to help me through this, we have some new folks with us, some folks who haven't been here in a while. But first, my colleague, my work wife, Dreams Unlimited travel agent, Elaine Edwards. Hello, Elaine.
Hi, friends.
And also joining us is Dreams Unlimited travel agent Mike Finucci. Hello, Mike.
Hello, everyone.
And Dreams Unlimited travel agent Lacey Post. Hello, Lacey.
Hey, everybody.
And of course, we have our amazing producer, Jimmy Valdez. Hello, Jimmy.
Hi.
Thank you all for being here. And of course, thank you for being here. Both Mike and Lacey recently traveled through Port Canaveral on their respective cruises. So we're thrilled that they're here to give us their very recent experience. It'll be very exciting. And we're also going to talk about, because some cruises are going not through the Terminal 8, the Disney Cruise Line terminal, but through Terminal 10. So we're going to talk about that. That's just ahead. We have a lot to talk about and we'll get to it. But first, I'd like to let you know that this show, along with everything we do at the Diz Unlimited, DCL fan, UO fan, it's all brought to you by Dreams Unlimited Travel. We are experts at helping you plan a magical Disney cruise, a visit to an amazing Disney theme park, your Universal adventure. Ooh, Epic Universe, so awesome. Even other cruise lines. There's no additional cost to book with Dreams Unlimited Travel, none. But we're going to give you insights about your Disney cruise, your Disney trip, your trip to Universal. This is what we do. And if you book your cruise with Dreams Unlimited Travel, you're going to get a shipboard credit of up to $1,000, depending on the price of your cruise. And I always hear people say nothing's for free. Well, this is one of these awesome cases where you get free money to spend on board, and it doesn't cost you a dime. Not bad. Best way to get started, dreamsunlimitedtravel.com. And one other note, I always do it by way of transparency. All of us, Elaine, Mike, Lacey, me, we're all Dreams Unlimited travel agents. And yes, this is our job. We do this because we really love Disney and we love Disney Cruise Line. And we want you to have the best time possible. Our job, both here on this podcast and as agents, is to give you information so you can make the best decision you can for you and your family. And as Disney fans know, sometimes Disney fans are the most critical because we care about this stuff so much, right? So we hope you book with Dreams, and it allows us to do this. If you don't, we still hope you have an amazing trip. And I just want to mention, I just recently, CLIA, the Cruise Line Industry Association, has an annual State of Cruising. And one of the interesting statistics that came out of that was cruisers who used a travel agent ended up having a better time in their trip, and largely because they found a better ship. They found the ship that matched what they wanted to do. And so it does make a difference. It was heartening. It warmed my heart. So before we start talking about Port Canaveral, I mentioned that both Mike and Lacey have cruised recently. And I just wanted to get a sense of, they both were celebrating. So Mike, tell us, give us a little snippet about your cruise. What ship? Where'd you go? How was it? And anything strike you as you've not your first cruise, so anything strike you as different from what you had heard or expected?
Yeah, so I was on a 5-night Bahamian out of Port Canaveral on the Disney Magic, celebrating my 10th wedding anniversary. And so we made stops at Castaway Cay and at Lookout Cay at Lighthouse Point, TM.
Yes, the long name.
The long name, yeah.
But can you say the name of the island?
What'd you say?
But can you say the name of the island?
Eleuthera.
There you go. Look at you.
Oh, it is. It's on lovely.
That calls it urethra.
Yeah.
No, Eleuthera. And so this was my first time back on the Magic after a while. It has since been through, I think, 2 dry docks since the last time I was on it. And the biggest new thing for me was Soul Cat Lounge. We spent a lot of time there. The performing group they had, which was known as Soul Duo, they're from Wales, and they were some of the best music performers that we've experienced on a Disney ship. And it's not something that I normally seek out, but we were there a lot because they were just so phenomenal. And so we spent a lot of time there. This was our first time on Castaway doing a cabana.
Awesome.
And I have a ton of things to say about that. I won't do Castaway again unless I can get a cabana. I might be ruined for life.
Mike's gone bougie. Yeah, baby.
Yeah, it was so good. And that was something that I was able to book after they were already gone. So I was able to find them much closer to sailing, which was nice. But other than that, we just relaxed. We did a lot of trivia, a lot of just kind of low-key activities. We didn't do the rainforest room this sailing. Awesome. Hung out by the pool, just really relaxed a lot.
You actually sent, and I always mention one of the advantages that we have is anytime we cruise, we always share information with the other agents saying, hey, I noticed this was different. And you actually shared some great insights about Lookout Key at Lighthouse Point. Tell folks about that.
Yeah. So full disclosure, I have a little bit of a mobility issue. And so one of the things I was concerned about was the length of the pier, because I can get around well. I don't have a great stamina for how long things can be. And so when I saw the pier, when it first debuted, I was concerned. The night before the sailing, we all got a message in the Disney Cruise Line app saying that any guests with mobility issues or disabilities that needed assistance with the pier, there was a set place to go and meet. In this case, it was Fathoms, one of the nightclubs at on the ship. And so we were just between, I think, 8 a.m. or 8:30 a.m. and 10:30 a.m. You would report there, and they would take you basically in the order that you were arrived. And so they said it could take up to an hour. It took us about 12 minutes once we got there. Wow. We were not some of the first people there. We got up, had a leisurely breakfast at Cabanas, leisurely went and grabbed our things and went down there. So we got there around, I think it was about 9:45, maybe closer to 10. And so there was some larger groups in there. It was myself and my husband. So we didn't wait very long because we were a party of 2 versus there was a party of 10. So they had to do 2 golf carts for them. The golf carts that they have seat 6. And you hopped on the golf cart and off you went. They took you to the end of the pier to a drop-off place. They took us straight up to the tram stop, and that's where we got off. And then we hopped on the tram and went over to the main part of the island, which is another good 10, 15-minute ride from there. Yeah. And once we got there, there were wheelchairs, both beach wheelchairs and regular wheelchairs, if anyone needed those, for navigating the rest of Lookout Key at Lighthouse Point.
And Lacey, you were on the Disney Wish sailing out of Port Canaveral. Tell us a little bit about you. You also were doing an adult only cruise. So I think you were doing more than 10 years, right?
We were. So it's my husband and mine's 25th wedding anniversary. So we did a land sea adventure. We couldn't quite decide what we wanted to do, so we just did it all. So we did sometime at Walt Disney World. We did a 3-night Disney Wish cruise, and then we went to St. Augustine. All of it was lovely, all 3 parts. And I had never been on the Disney Wish before, and I loved it. I thought it was beautiful. And I know I'd heard a lot of complaints about the layout, but I think because of you guys, we were able to find everything easy, even the Cove Cafe, which is kind of at that dead end.
Yeah, it's interesting. My experience is people who that is their first ship love it. Us people who have been on all the other ships are a little bit, because we miss having being able to walk all the way around, and things aren't where we used to like them, and the adult only area isn't quite what we like. But it's an awesome ship. So we're going to talk more about adult only in another show. So we'll talk some about these things coming up. But let's talk Port Canaveral, because as I mentioned, this is the destination that so many Disney ships leave out of. Port Canaveral, let me give you just a quick overview before we dive into details. Port Canaveral opened in 1953. Its first cruise ships, 1964. And one of the fun and interesting parts of Port Canaveral, when you leave out of Port Canaveral, as you look north, you can actually see Cape Canaveral. The Cape Canaveral is technically the Cape Canaveral Space Force Station. It's just north of the port, and you can see those really iconic building where rockets go off to infinity and beyond. It's really a cool place to see. Port Canaveral is one of the busiest ports in the entire world. It basically is running right up there with the Port of Miami for that title. The most recent numbers I've seen, 2024, Port Canaveral was the second busiest port in terms of number of passengers, 7.6 million passengers going through Port Canaveral. And for those of you playing the home game, Miami, 8.2 million passengers. And number 3 was Port of Nassau at 5.6 million passengers. With a growing Disney Cruise Line fleet, Port Canaveral is home to at least 2 and often 3 Disney Cruise Line ships. The Disney Wish does 3 and 4 night Bahamian cruises itineraries, and the Disney Treasure does 7 night Caribbean itineraries. The Disney Fantasy will do 3, 4, 5, and 7 night itineraries. And as Mike just said, the Disney Magic has been cruising out of for periods of time out of Port Canaveral as well. So there have been a lot of ships, Disney ships there in Port Canaveral. Port Canaveral is due east of Orlando, about 46 miles from the Orlando International Airport, about 60 miles from the Walt Disney World Resort, and also about 60 miles from the Universal Orlando Resort. So if you want to do that. And let me open it up there about getting there, because Elaine, many people take the airplanes, and there are actually 3 airports. The main one, and I'm going to leave it to you from there.
You want me to name
go talk about Orlando International Airport, because that's the one that people fly into the most, right?
Got it. Yes. So I would say the majority of our people are flying into Orlando International, if they are flying in. And as we have said pretty much every single episode, please do not fly in the day of your cruise, because you are really just playing with fire right then and there. We really want you to get here at least a day early. And if you are doing that, there's several places that you could stay. Very, very, very popular is the Hyatt is located right inside the Orlando International Airport. And I know Mike wants to talk about that because he did experience that. A lot of people will stay at Disney World, and you can use the Disney Cruise Line transfers from the airport, from the Hyatt, or from your Disney World hotel, and they will take you right to the port. Additionally, I do know that a lot of people will stay at a hotel, especially if they've got, loyalty points, that kind of thing. They'll stay at a hotel nearby the airport, maybe one that's got a free shuttle, and it'll shuttle them back to the airport. They'll catch the DCL transfer from the airport that morning and take them right to the ship. We have people that will use their own private transfers, whether they hire a third-party company. I have done probably everything you can think of. I have done the Disney Cruise Line transfers. I've done private transfers. I've rented a car and done one-way rentals. I have done Uber to get there. So there's a lot of different ways to get there. They all have their pluses and minuses.
Mike, talk a little bit about what you did when you I assume you flew into Orlando.
Yes. So this is our first time. It wasn't our first cruise out of Port Canaveral, but it was our first time staying at the Hyatt. We flew in the night before. We got in around 4:30 p.m. the day before. which it was a very relaxing feeling getting off the plane and knowing you were at your destination, not having to then grab bags and then find transport somewhere else. So that was nice. We went to grab our bags at baggage claim, went upstairs, headed to the Hyatt, which has a tricky entry point. It's easy to miss, but it's between the two security checkpoints. And headed up, checked in, got our room, and we were relaxing from there. We grabbed dinner. There's 2 or 3 restaurants in the Hyatt itself, and then you also have the food court available, the main food court downstairs. We checked out the pool, relaxed by the pool at the airport, watched people coming and going, checked out all of the Disney shops, the Universal shop, the SeaWorld shop. There's lots to do in the airport itself, which was nice. And a day or so before that, we got an email letting us know what time to go down to the lobby based on our Castaway Club status. And it's based on the highest Castaway Club status in your stateroom. I was gold, so we were in the second group to go down. So it started at 9 o'clock. We were in the 9:15 group. The really nice thing is once we got there, they did our cruise check-in right there in the lobby of the airport. We were outside one of the ballrooms. They took our passport, reviewed our documents, scanned our QR codes, and as long as everything was good, they had us go into the ballroom. They gave us a character tag. Ours was Pocahontas, so we just had to wait for them to call Pocahontas to leave. And it was really seamless. They came in, we waited maybe 30 minutes or so. We were just waiting for the buses to start. They came in, they called one group before us, and then they called Pocahontas. Pocahontas headed downstairs to the main entrance of the Hyatt, straight onto a bus, and off we went. Once we got to Port Canaveral, there was a separate security line that we breezed straight through because we had already been checked in. We went through, they scanned our bags, our carry-on bags, because we were able to leave our bags in our room, and they picked them up for us at the Hyatt itself, our check bags, and they showed up at our room later that afternoon. We went straight through security, and by the time we got there, they were not yet boarding the ship. So we waited about 30 minutes for them to announce the family of the day. They called boarding group 1, and about 10 minutes later, they called boarding groups 2 and 3, which we were in 3, and we were on the ship probably a little bit before 11 a.m. So
it's the nice thing about going out of, if you stay at the Hyatt Regency, is you do all that check-in stuff even before you get to the port. And it just, as Mike said, it just feels like, okay, I'm through this part. And you can, you may still need to show your passport or something like that. So I always have them available, but it just feels so easy breezy. Lacey, I'm going to come to you about your experience in just a moment. But I want to mention that there are 2 other airport options. And they're not, as Elaine said, most people do not use them, but we want to make sure you know about them. The Orlando Sanford International Airport, it's about 60 miles from the port, so about the same as Port Canaveral. It's less crowded. There also aren't as many airlines that go there, so check. But for some people have found that they can get cheaper flights by going there, so it may be worth checking. There is no Disney Cruise Line transportation if you fly into Sanford, so just be aware of that. You'd have to arrange your own transportation, and we can certainly help you with that when you get there. The other one is the Melbourne Orlando International Airport, and I think it's funny both of these have added Orlando to their official names. It's located south of Port Canaveral, about 43 miles from the port, so it's about a 50-minute drive. It's actually the closest airport there. Again, many even fewer than Sanford flights go into Melbourne. So and no Disney Cruise Line transportation. So if you're going that direction, you would have to make your own, but there is no ground transportation from either one of those. So just be aware. I want to talk a minute about driving because, Lacey, this brings us into you. You drove to the port. Give us a sense as to, I've never driven to the port, so I have no idea what this is like. Tell me about it.
Okay, so we live in Georgia, so we do typically drive to Disney World and to Port Canaveral. So we just drove, like I said, to Disney, and then from Disney on to Port Canaveral. And it took us about an hour from Disney World to Port Canaveral. We stopped by the Dreams Unlimited Travel Welcome Center, which was nice. I had a fun talk with Teresa, and if you stop by, she gives you a gift too, so that's nice.
That's awesome.
And and then we went and parked in the parking deck. That was very easy, lots of spaces. We were on the second deck, right by the elevators. I think it's $17 a day, so we paid about $72 and some change for the 4 days that it was there.
Do you have to
Sorry.
prearrange that, or do you pay for it when you get there?
You just pay for it when you get there. Yeah, it's very easy.
And you sort of say how many days your cruise is, and then it charges you that amount, right?
Yeah, it actually asks you what cruise you're on, and then you just select the cruise.
Oh, wow. Awesome.
Yes.
And just an aside, I don't mean to interrupt, but I'll just make this point. You do have to pay essentially by credit card or debit card. I was listening to another podcast, and they were going, and their card wasn't, because of international stuff, wasn't working, and they only had one card. So just have a backup just in case, so you don't get caught in that situation. The Port Authority helped them, and they made it all work, but it can be a stress point. So just that's how you pay is using your credit card. Sorry, Lacey, go ahead.
Oh, that's fine. That's a good tip. So then we went down with our bags. They had porters right there waiting. So I think I tipped the guy, and he took our bag. Very nice, but he did make sure that I knew that he did not work for Disney, and he did not get any of my gratuities on the boat. So make sure you've got some change or some dollars with you.
Yeah.
So we did tip him. He was very nice. Got our bags on the boat, and then we went into Terminal 10. We did go out of Terminal 10, and it was like a well-oiled machine. They had plenty of workers. Everybody was pointing you where to go. It was just, I don't think we ever waited very long at all anywhere. We were right there when our onboard time was, which is 11:45. So we didn't have to wait. We just walked right on. We went in the security line, and they were putting you into groups. And then once we got through that, we waited maybe 5 minutes for the check-in desk. And then we checked in. We tried to sit down for a minute and go to the bathroom, but then it was already our time to be on the boat. So it was very easy, very easy.
So just to let folks know, if you're on the Disney Wish, and it's not every, but it's a lot of Disney Wish itineraries, you will be cruising not out of Terminal 8, which is the Disney Cruise Line terminal that you always see, the one with the Mickey ears, you walk through the Mickey ears and all that kind of stuff. This will be Terminal 10, which is the next one that you basically see. It's right in front of Terminal 8. And it doesn't have the full Disney. This is not a full Disney pier. Essentially, what they do is what they do if you cruise out of Vancouver or some of the other non-Disney ports. Really, Terminal 8 in Port Canaveral and the terminal down Disney Cruise Line Terminal 4 down in Fort Lauderdale are the only two that are decked out, and it's a full Disney experience. And I've had some folks who are a little disappointed, and they go, I thought I was going to be able to walk through the Mickey ears, and they wanted that photo. But Lacey, it sounds like from what you say, yeah, it's not that, but they still do a lovely job of it's still very efficient, but it's not horrible.
Yes, I mean, it was an efficient, easy process for us. I did see a good many people waiting, but I'm assuming that was people that arrived before their time.
Yeah.
But as long as you get there when at your time, I don't think you'll wait at all. So
a pro tip, if you're using some of the navigation apps, sometimes Port Canaveral might not show up. So you can put in Cape Canaveral. It will get you there. It's basically the same thing, but just be aware of that. Also for Terminal 10, I've had some people say, the parking was more challenging. In the show notes, I'm going to put the maps so you can see exactly where they are. if you go to the Port Canaveral website, they have a little map of each of them. It's easy to find. Just go to cruises, and it's really easy to find, and I think very helpful for knowing where you need to go. A lot of people say you drop off your bags first and then go park, so you don't have to haul your bags with you, and then the porters will take them right from there. Other transportation item, you can, of course, take Disney Cruise Line transfers. You can drive. You can take a private shuttle, and those prices range. I've seen anywhere from as low as $150. Most of them are around the $225, $250 range. I've seen all the way up to $400, but that was for a larger van that held 12 people. So, there are options, and it's around there. You can rent a car. What I often hear people do is that there are drop-off locations right near Port Canaveral. So find one of the car services that you can drop it off there, and they often will provide transportation to the port. So you just drop off your bags, you go drop off the car, and then you take the terminal back. Take a ride back to the terminal. You can also, of course, always ride share. I've seen those on be between $60 and $125. Of course, that all depends on what kind of vehicle you choose, what time of day, if there's any surge pricing, but that's all available as well. Let's talk about a little bit about. Yeah, go ahead, Elaine.
Before we move on, I have a couple a couple little rapid fire pro tips with all of the stuff that we've talked about as far as like driving and that kind of thing. Lacey talked about parking, and I believe the things may have changed, but the last time that I looked at it, the regular parking is in the parking garage, but the premium parking, which they charge more for, is actually uncovered. So just keep that in mind. Even if you're parking in the parking garage, you are leaving your car or a rental car parked there for an extended period of time in very, 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 very hot weather. So think about what you are leaving inside of your car, because it might be melted, exploded, something else rotten by the time you get back. So remember that. 2, Lacey, did you encounter toll roads? Because the last time I drove, I was finding every quarter I could from underneath every seat to pay tolls. Did you have that?
We did use toll roads, but you don't have to stop and do the quarters anymore. They just bill you through the mail. So
okay.
They just have cameras. It's easy.
One time that I did it in a rental car, and we actually missed the turn off, and I'm like, oh geez, I'm gonna get like $100
fine.
It was a whole thing. So just be prepared that you are going to use toll roads. And with renting the car, if you're going to do the one ways, I've done that several times, and it is very, very easy. You just want to allow yourself a little bit of time to get to the drop-off terminal, and most of them are right there within a mile of the port, and they will shuttle you over. I've never even been in a van with anybody else. It's only been whoever I was traveling with. But do make sure that the rental car company that you're using for these one-way transfers is actually still open at that location. Because that was a big, big, big thing once cruising restarted after the pandemic shutdown, is that many of these rental companies never reopened, but they're still listed as like locations when you just Google, enterprise rental car locations. Because I actually ran into that as an issue, that we had a car booked and later discovered that location didn't even exist anymore, even though it let us book it. So just be aware, make sure that it's actually there. So I think that was
a great point. Go ahead, Mike.
Oh, can I throw in one thing really quick? Not only that, getting to the port is important. Getting back from the port is equally as important. And one of the things that happened, at least on our return, we were taking Disney transfers on the way back as well. We hit quite a bit of traffic. There was a car accident on 528, which our bus driver joked with all of us because we were stuck for about an hour. His joke was, I don't understand how there's a car accident because it's a straight road, but somehow it happens frequently. And so we had people on our return coach that had booked a really tight return flight time, and they missed their
Oh, well.
flight because they had booked it immediately at, I think, an 11 o'clock, which is where Disney recommends. But because we were stuck for a little over an hour, they could not make checking their bags and getting on their flight. So something to keep in mind there.
I was going to put saving this for, and I'll do it again at the end, put them all together in terms of pro tips. The latest arrival time into Port Canaveral. So if you are flying in on the day of your cruise, please don't do it. But if you are, you're ignoring our best advice and doing that anyway. The latest you can arrive currently for 2025, as we're recording this, is 12 noon. Starting next year, 2026, Disney is shifting that back to 11:30. I just noticed that when I was doing research in prep for this. So next year, it'll be at 11:30 is the earliest that you can get in there. If you are staying, as Elaine mentioned, you can stay at a hotel, and we're going to talk about hotels next. If you choose to stay at a hotel nearby the airport and then take the shuttle back to the airport or something, they essentially start doing those transfers at about 10 o'clock in the morning, and you would just go to the departure. That's where there'll be a Disney Cruise Line person, and they'll make it through. On the way home, as the earliest that they recommend, the Disney Cruise Line recommends, is 11:15. You're usually fine, but as Mike mentioned, rightfully so, can be tough. So I always try and give myself a little bit of leeway. Unfortunately, I'm doing a Thanksgiving cruise on the Disney Treasure, and it's the airline shifted my flight, so we were right at 11:15, and I'm a nervous traveler, so. As I mentioned, I wanted to talk quickly about where to stay. Let me just quickly go. Of course, the Walt Disney World Resort, as Lacey said, it's an awesome place. You can stay there and do a Disney trip before. The Universal Orlando Resort now has a package that is actually a travel agent exclusive. We can book it for you, and they will provide. It's a discounted either tickets or hotel room, I forget which, but they will also get you transportation to the port, so that's kind of nice. And it's a great place to do Epic Universe for a day or something. Disney Cruise Line you can tie a pre-cruise stay to your Disney Cruise Line reservation. Now, we don't recommend doing this for Walt Disney World, because if they roll out discounts, we can't get that discount for you. It's all through Disney Cruise Line. So we would do that separately. But if you want to stay at the Hyatt Regency, definitely check on pricing. We can check on the pricing for you, because sometimes their room block is less expensive than if you book it direct. So it's definitely worth checking into. The other place that you can book through Disney is the Hilton Cocoa Beach Oceanfront. This is a beachfront hotel in Cocoa Beach, which is about 15-20 minutes from the port, right there in Cocoa Beach. And Disney doesn't provide any transportation either to the hotel or from the hotel to the port. So just be aware of that. Mike, I know you have talked to had others book things nearby, recommended places, right?
Yeah, I've had a few clients that have told me about it. I've not experienced it yet. So, but I've had a good handful of clients that have booked the Radisson Resort at the Port, is what it's called. It is near Port Canaveral as well. They booked that because they offer a package that you can book it directly, that offers a shuttle from Orlando International to the Radisson Resort at the Port, and then they also offer a shuttle to the port. So I've had a few clients who have done that. And then they add the one-way Disney transfer back to the airport.
Lovely.
So that is one that I've gotten good feedback from clients on. But again, I've not experienced it. So, yeah.
I had us talking about parking and drop off, but we did that kind of earlier. It's very efficient. Go to the Port Canaveral website, and they have little maps of where you need to go. Drop off your bags. If you're driving, drop off your bags. If you're taking Disney Cruise Line transportation, they'll have taken all those for you and get those on the ship already. So it makes it nice and easy. The one key point that we always, and we reminded you earlier, and we did a embarkation discussion. So you can find that at disneyshow.com/embarkation. It makes it nice and easy. But don't put your luggage tags on before you're actually handing them over to some kind of Disney person. Don't put them on before you fly. Airlines get confused enough, and you don't want to lose your luggage. So, and Mike, Mike, port arrival times, these are also important to pay attention to, right?
Yeah. So when we were on Disney Transfer, so we didn't have a port arrival time, but we did have a boarding group, and that is one of the things that we get asked as travel agents a lot. Does the port arrival time matter? Does the boarding group matter? Both, yes. If you arrive before your port arrival time, they may not let you in. But if you're on Disney Transfers, you don't get a port arrival time. You just get the boarding group number. Now, one of the common questions we get is, if I book the transfers, do I get a lower boarding group? And the answer is not necessarily. Sometimes you'll get the lower boarding group number, but you won't get to the port as early. And that's going to depend on how many stops that transfer is making. And that particularly matters with pre-stays at Walt Disney World more than if you're going from the airport or from the Hyatt. From the airport, if you're leaving from baggage claim, as soon as the shuttle fills, it's off and on the way. And then once you get to the port, it's just going to determine on what boarding group you had. So the answer is yes, they're both important, but it's really going to depend on if your big goal is to get on the ship. The boarding group number is the magical key that gets you on the ship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lacey, you also want to remember, you need to remember that port arrival form, right? That's one of the key things, and whatever citizenship documents, those are so important.
Yes, we had those handy and ready. So, like I said, everything worked so smoothly for us. We were fortunate.
I always have like one of these plastic kind of, well, not plastic, they're, reusable bags. And I have my passport in here. I have luggage tags. I have my passport. I always have my magic band in here ready to go. I have it all together in one place so I can easily, and I stuff it into the side of my suit, my carry-on bag. So just have all that together. And again, we have a whole show on Embarkation Day. So please do watch that. I wanted to talk a little bit about things to do, because I know we all get asked. I have either my flight doesn't leave until 6:00 or some. Elaine, what do you share with folks to do that may be close to Orlando if they either want to stay a couple of days and maybe you can always do the theme parks, right? But if you want to do something different.
So a lot of people want to do Kennedy Space Center. I have a lot of people that ask about that and do that on their, especially if they have like a 6:00 flight. It kind of seems like you either get a morning flight or you get a late night flight, and you have to fill that time in between. So a lot of people do like to go over to the Space Center for the day. And the easiest way to do that is just to control yourself by renting a car, as we've talked about. That way you can go over there at your leisure. You can get something to eat for lunch. You can get yourself to the airport when you need to get there and just drop off the rental car there. Also, I know that Jackie Gailey from our team recently experienced that she did a day room at that Hyatt inside MCO. And she said it was absolutely amazing, and she loved being able to do that. That is really great if you know that your family is going to kind of, by the time you get to the cruise, you are kind of just done for. You are sunburned and worn out and sick of everything and everybody, and you know that you cannot handle one more tourist activity, then maybe you want to get a day room at the hotel so that you can just chill and swim and eat and nap and do that. So we have a lot of people that do that. I have done going to Disney Springs. Had a good lunch there and got my cookies that I could take home with me. So I've done that before. So yeah, there's several things that you can do.
Lacey, what do you suggest? Elaine mentioned a bunch of great things. And by the way, just a pro tip: if you want to actually extend your stay a little bit, the Courtyard Marriott in, I think it's Titusville. Anyway, it's called the Space Hotel, and they're actually decorated. It's right at the Kennedy Space Center. The rooms are decorated space-wise, so it's kind of a fun way if you want to stay one more night and do the Space Center. I haven't ever done the Kennedy Space Center, but I hear it's super cool. So we will do it at some point. But Lacey, what do you share with folks about things to do?
Well, we have done the Kennedy Space Center, and I did really enjoy that. And like I said, this time we went to St. Augustine after our cruise. I had never been
Lovely.
there, but I love history. So a lot of my friends have told me I would just love it. It's the oldest city in America, even predates Jamestown. So if
Wow.
you really like history, it's amazing. It was beautiful, and it's like 2 hours from Port Canaveral,
Oh, wow,
and
awesome.
Saint George or George Street. I'm trying to remember if it was. I think it's just George Street.
Yeah.
It's really pretty to walk down. Lots of shops, museums, things to do. We toured the old fort that's there, and it's actually a National Historic Landmark there. And then we went into the first parish in the United States. It was beautiful. Had a lot of Spanish themes. So it was just a gorgeous place to be. So I would highly recommend it if you want somewhere different and if you like history. That, like I said, it was just 2 hours from Port Canaveral.
Yeah, awesome. Mike, do you have any other suggestions? You want to top any?
Most of them have been covered, but I have some friends that used to live in the area, and one of the things that they had recommended at one point was kayaking. For those that are more outdoor oriented, there's a couple great state parks in the Orlando area. I
Yeah.
can't remember the name specifically, but it's a springs based. Why? Starts with a W. Sorry, it's right on the tip of my tongue, but I can't remember what it is. That offers crystal clear waters. There's sometimes manatees that you can go kayaking
Oh,
there
cool.
with, and there's also a great make your own pancake restaurant there. It's called the Old Sugar Mill. And I know that I've had some clients that are some of my Alaska clients that love the outdoors that have asked for things like that. And based on those recommendations, I've connected them there. So that's the other one that hasn't been mentioned already that I can think of that I would probably plug and recommend.
Just as you have those longer times after, remember, you're going to have your bags. So
Yeah.
Elaine mentioned renting a car. So that's one easy solution. There are luggage storage locations. Most likely, airlines don't tend to take your bags until a couple hours, 2 or 3 hours before your flight. So you can't really drop them off before there. So just be aware of that. There are, you can go shopping. There are outlets in Orlando. Elaine mentioned Disney Springs, also a City Walk up at Universal. And just spend the day there. You can kind of hang out without having to pay a penny. It's nice. There are a bunch of museums in Orlando. There are a bunch of great restaurants local to Orlando that aren't connected to those. And there are great water parks in Orlando as well. So if you want to go spend the day at a water park, you could do that. There is a lot of great things to do, and we can always make suggestions. So it's a fun. Hopefully your flight isn't that long, but hopefully you can make it through. Anything else that we need to talk about in terms of Port Canaveral? Anybody have things that we didn't talk about?
I think I did want to say one thing about Ubers.
Yeah.
That if you are considering taking an Uber to or from the port, I have done it. However, anytime I have a client ask about it, I kind of tell them I don't recommend it. The reason being is that, again, you're talking about 45 minutes to an hour one way for this driver, which means that for them to make any money, they also have to find somebody going back the opposite way, which it's going to be opposite anyways because of the people getting off the ship when you're getting on. So they're not going to be able to find that person going the other way. So it doesn't really work out for them. So a lot of drivers won't take those requests when they see them offered. So if getting there and being the first one on the ship is that important to you, I honestly would not recommend trying to do Uber or Lyft because there is a chance it could take you a while to find you a driver to get you there. Same way with going to the airport. I have done it, but I don't recommend it if you have one of those very, very, very close times as far as needing to get to the airport.
It's
So just
it's also complex in terms of coordinating what time you get off the ship, and for me, it's more stress than I want to deal with. So yeah, I think you're exactly right. It's one of the more complex ways. One of the other pro tips, and Mike mentioned that there's a bunch of restaurants in the Hyatt Regency at the airport, which is literally right above Terminal A. So if you're having trouble finding it, look up above Terminal A, and there you'll see it. But on the top floor of the hotel, they have Hemisphere. It's a restaurant up top. It's only open for dinner. You can make reservations on Open Table, and it's quite good. And you can watch the planes take off and come in and everything. It's a nice place to have a dinner if you get in early enough. So I always recommend that to folks. So lovely. Anything else?
The
Good.
last piece that I
Yeah.
had, when it comes to the port arrival time and your form, it has a QR code. They're going to ask for the QR code. If you already have the app on your phone, take a screenshot and carry a copy of that somewhere else, because every once in a while technology will fail and your phone may die. You may break your phone somewhere between the airport and the port and not be able to pull it up, or something like that. So making sure that you have a copy of your check-in QR code in, I would say, new technology form and old school technology form, as in on paper, is a good idea.
Yeah, it's great advice. And Elaine has all of hers dating back to who knows when on her phone still. So she's ready to go on whatever cruise she wants to go on.
That's right. I like to save them to, if you have an Apple phone, you can actually download them to your Apple Wallet. And so I always do that because it'll put it in the settings so that you don't even have to unlock your phone. When it will just automatically open it and show it when you're there at the port, which is very handy when you have everything else in your hand and you're trying to like find all your kids and everything else. You just pick up your phone and it automatically opens it to that. And so I never delete them. So I have every one of them, which is fun. So
She can relive them through the QR codes. It's
yeah.
awesome. All great advice. Thank you. I hope you guys have a better idea as to what you're getting into when you arrive at Port Canaveral. And as I mentioned, we're going to do them. We'll do Fort Lauderdale next. I'm cruising out of Fort Lauderdale in December, so we'll probably do that mid-December and give you more of a sense as to what to expect if you cruise out of Fort Lauderdale. But we'll save that. We'll plan for it. With that said. Thanks so much for joining us. We would, of course, love for you to book with Dreams Unlimited Travel. Literally, it helps pay for what we're doing here and sharing this information with you. I'll tell you, I was a Dreams client before I was a Dreams agent. Mike was my agent. So I totally understand the value here. The best place to start, dreamsunlimitedtravel.com. You select Disney Cruise. You'll see Mickey showing off the ship. And the first page, it'll ask for your itinerary and then your cruise date. On the second page at the very top, there's a pull-down menu. It'll have all the Dreams agents. You can select Elaine. You can select Mike. You can select Lacey. Every single one of them is super awesome. So you're not going to go wrong. If you don't select one, you will get a great Dreams Unlimited travel agent. So, but Elaine, if somebody wants to reach you outside of booking a reservation, how do they do that?
My email is Elaine, ELAINE, at dreamsunlimitedtravel.com. But as Chris said, if you are wanting a quote from me, the fastest way is to go right to that form because I get a lot of emails every single day. So,
Mike, how can somebody reach you?
You can find me, email Mike at dreamsunlimitedtravel.com, or on my Instagram. My other car is a monorail. And those are the two places easiest. But as Elaine said, that if you send me an email and you're asking for pricing, I'm going to direct you to the form. So the fastest way is to send us that form because that gets the process started so I can then have something for you.
And we hate sending it to a form, but the form really collects
No.
all the information that we need in order to get you we need that data in order to get you the more information. So it sounds horrible, but it's easy breezy. It's the easiest way to get started. Lacey, how do people reach you?
My email address is Laci, LACI, at dreamsunlimitedtravel.com.
Awesome. And if you want to reach me, Chris V at dreamsunlimitedtravel.com. Yes, there's a Chris. So it's Chris V at dreamsunlimitedtravel.com. My social media at Yensid Travel. Yensid is Disney spelled backwards, and the Sorcerer and Sorcerer's Apprentice. So find Yensid Travel on most of the platforms. And we also have a new way for you to reach out to us. You can leave us a message. Yeah. Just go to dclshow.com/message. And you can record your message. It's really easy. Just do it straight from your phone. And we're just starting this. We actually started this just a couple weeks ago, and we got our first message. Hi, Karen. Always great to hear from you. Do it for questions, comments, ideas about the show, whatever you want to do. As always, a special thanks to our producer, Jimmy Valdez. And thanks, Mike, Lacey, Elaine. Thanks for being here. Very special thanks for you joining us. We really do appreciate it. Depending on where you're watching, listening to this, please like, subscribe, leave us a review. It really does help us. And there are these magical minions in the background called algorithms. I don't know how they work, but they tell me it helps and gets this information to people who are interested in it. So if you can do that, that'd be awesome. And if you have topics, you can leave those in the YouTube comments. You can put it on DCL Facebook, the DCL fan Facebook page, where a whole bunch of people discussing Disney Cruise Line. It's really fun. Or you can just send me an email, chrisv at dreamsunlimitedtravel.com. All right. With that, a lot to cover today, but awesome information. Thank you so much for being here. Safe travels, and we'll see you real soon.